Watch more programs like this on cable and stream with PCN Select. Subscribe at PCNTV.com. This program has been paid for by the sponsor and does not reflect the views of PCN.
Welcome to this edition of PHRC Speaks, Fair Housing in the 21st Century. I'm your host, Adrian Garcia, Director of Fair Housing and Commercial Property for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. We often talk about the need to look at fair housing through a 360-degree view in order to address both the reactive part of the law, which focuses on enforcement, compliance, as well as the proactive part of the law, which is, in a perfect world, would be the focus on taking meaningful steps beyond prohibiting discrimination and actually remove the systems that promote segregation in our community. Moreover, it's important to do this by collaborating with every organization involved in housing and around housing, like property management companies, lenders, real estate professionals, appraisers, housing funders, municipal governments, and social service entities. Our guest today is familiar with this concept and will share his valuable insight in this regard. Jeremy Hayes is the Director of Housing Rights and Resource Center at Tenfold, a Fair Housing Initiatives Program participant, or FIP, providing fair housing education and outreach initiatives in Lancaster and York counties. Prior to serving in this role, Mr. Hayes worked as a housing locator at Tabor Community Services and Church World Service. He has worked with refugees, those experiencing homelessness, those at risk of eviction, as well as individuals with disabilities. He has developed strong relationships with both private landlords and property management companies, and he has advocated on behalf of tenants who have significant barriers to housing, working for fair housing choice for all households. Jeremy is a HUD-certified housing counselor, in addition to being a certified fair housing specialist through the National Center for Housing Management, and uses his credentials to develop and deliver trainings on the topics of fair housing for property managers, ensuring that fair housing training is integrated with other relevant housing information that will draw community members and housing professionals to participate in increasing their knowledge. He received his BA in Political Science from Millersville University. And now we welcome Jeremy Hayes to PHRC Speaks. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Adrian. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to our conversation.
Of course.
So let's start off by asking, what is Tenfold? How did that come to be?
So, Tenfold is a comprehensive housing nonprofit. We have emergency housing programs, shelters including TLC, Transitional Living Center, which also has a part of that is a veterans program. Best Shalom, which helps reentrant mothers. We have a rapid rehousing program known as a sheltered independent living that can help those who are experiencing homelessness get ready and find housing. We have fair housing and tenant landlord resources. That's my department there. And we also have a financial empowerment center that's staffed with housing counselors that can help with credit, savings, budgeting. They have a match savings program there, first time home buyer class. So we really do go through the entire spectrum of housing needs for an individual, from that homelessness to being a homeowner. How Tenfold came about? Well, it's only really been around since 2021, really. But that's because two organizations known as the Lancaster Housing Opportunity Partnership and Tabor Community Services merged together in 2021. That conversation started back in 2019. And they had both been around for 25 years and 50 years, respectively. So together they have, 75 years
Sure.
of housing experience and service. Both organizations really did have that housing-centered service for the community, and when they met with each other to talk, they realized how integrated their services could be, and so decided to become one organization and be that that one-stop kind of shop for housing needs for Lancaster County.
Amazing story to be able to bring two organizations that complement each other so well
Yeah.
and go from homelessness to home ownership.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, it's really great, and it's just the fact that it was a true merger with the whole new name, new branding, new logos, all that fun stuff. So
Good. So tell me a little bit about how you got into this line of work. Where's that passion for the housing justice come from?
So there's two moments in my history. The one is that I remember very clearly. The one got me into it. The other one kept me into it. Right? The one I was actually I was in college. And I was sleeping in class, of course, and I had just been thinking earlier in the week that I needed to get my foot in the door at an office job. I hadn't had one before. I'd worked in restaurants, UPS. Those sorts of jobs. And the professor that day, Professor Bookmiller, started talking about this internship opportunity that was in downtown Lancaster. My head perked up, and the rest is history. I started my internship at Churchfield Service not too long after. I think it was that summer, actually. It was probably the winter semester, and then in the summer I started my internship, that's how it got me into housing. It was in that internship that I really discovered the importance of housing. And we all know housing is important, but I saw the effects and the importance of having that first place to live, that secure place to lock the door and kind of just let everything else go. It was during, this is the second moment, it was during that internship that as part of the refugee resettlement work at Churchfield Service, they had to find housing for people, and they had to do it before that person arrived. So that was finding housing for somebody who didn't have any credit, didn't have income, didn't have a rental history. And you had to work with private landlords and property managers for them to agree to rent to this person. That job fell to the housing location specialist, and as the intern, I got to help this gentleman out once a week. He went on vacation 1 week and left me in charge of the whole thing. I'd been an intern for maybe a month or so. He left me a list of things to do, so not anything too big. At the time, it was huge to me. Part of this job is setting the place up once you find it. So beds, kitchen tables, silverware, cups, dressers, towels, all that stuff. So I was loading our van the one day that he was gone. And working at UPS and restaurants, it's physically demanding work.
Sure.
Loading a table about this size by myself into this van, I thought to myself, this is worth doing. This is worth, the thought I had was destroying my body over, right? I would do this work throughout the rest of my life, hopefully, if I could.
Wow, and now you get a chance to.
And now I get a chance to, yeah. And that was one of my favorite jobs, actually. I got to be the housing location specialist there, like you said earlier, and that was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. So
excellent. Well, we appreciate you being in the fight.
Of course.
Right? What are some of the programs that you manage at the Housing Rights and Resource Center?
Right. So, like I said, Tenfold is a comprehensive nonprofit, housing nonprofit. Our Housing Rights and Resources Center is just a small part of that. But even in that small part, there's a lot of programs. So we are actually, like you said, the designated FIP for Lancaster, York, and actually Adams County as well. So we handle all the fair housing complaints, all the fair housing questions, information for those 3 counties. We have 2 similar programs in Lancaster and York County. They're both landlord risk mitigation programs. One is called the Community Rental Equity Fund. The other is the York Rental Stability Network. Both are kind of designed for people who have not the best application, bad credit, not good rental history, maybe even a criminal record, to then show the landlord, hey, you're not alone in this relationship with the tenant. There's others here to walk alongside them, and kind of mitigate the risk you're taking by renting to this person. We have the Fair Housing Intake Line, which anybody can call. You can call it if you had a fair housing question. And we take those questions. We do our best. We're not lawyers, so we can't give any legal advice, but we can give you what your rights and responsibilities are in regards to fair housing and in regards to PA tenant landlord law. We have workshops scheduled throughout the year. Doing lease basics, Fair Housing 101. Housing location is one of the more popular ones right now, to how to go about looking for that housing. because it's pretty scarce right now for sure. We also manage the Lancaster County waitlist for the 811 PRA program. This is a project-based program for individuals who have a disability, have very low income, and at a certain age range as well. We hold a variety of different collaborative meetings, including the PHRC collaborative. We head the Eviction Prevention Network, and we do our kind of outreach for fair housing through events, tabling, doing social media, advertising on the radio, newspapers, even bus ads in the counties.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Pretty comprehensive
It's a
list.
lot, yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. How do you think the programs like the Landlord Mitigation Fund, your 811, and some of these other programs, how do you think they affirmatively or help to affirmatively further fair housing?
Well, the landlord risk mitigation funds, they really do try to remove those barriers and expand that housing choice for people who might not otherwise have that decision. Criminal records is not a protected class in fair housing, but being able to advocate for those with a criminal record, or we're able to expand their housing choice, and somebody might decide to rent to them who otherwise would not. With the 811 program, that's anybody who might have a disability. They might not be able to work. So expanding us managing that wait list, being involved with the client, speaking with them and the service provider, we can expand their housing choice that way. They can pick up to 3 counties in that program. Some counties have very short to no wait lists. So if we're talking to a client and they are open to moving to one of those counties, we can change and change with the counties they selected with their permission, and get them into housing and get them to somewhere where they can live.
So
and be
it really
safe.
is about that fair housing choice. If
Yeah.
you can afford to live there, if you want to move, you can move.
Yeah, it's just, I hear a lot of people say, well, if they can't live here, they can't afford this, why don't they just move? Moving is expensive.
Yeah.
Moving is very expensive, let alone the moving truck, taking off work, having the security deposit, first month's rent up front is out of reach for people even without a disability.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And what ends up happening is, and we saw this through COVID, how it bubbled up to the surface, all the people that are usually marginalized in this system. Those are the first line of people that were further marginalized. And so those programs, did you see how those programs were able to be effective?
Yeah, we got, I'm not sure the exact number, we got plenty of 811 applications. I know Lancaster County's wait list is significantly longer than a lot of others, because it's a great place to live.
Sure.
But like I said, they can pick up to 3 counties. So we kind of encourage people, even if you really don't want to leave the county, pick one of these other ones, get in that housing and get someplace safe, and then figure out, because you can always move, you can always say no, but try to get that safe housing first.
I'm curious, and I'm just going to offer this as a follow-up.
Yeah.
It's not on script, but I'm going to offer this as a follow-up. Pushback from landlords. Are you getting a lot of pushback from landlords on some of these programs that are designed to help individuals get into housing?
There was a recent one outside of Lancaster County for the 811. I think that one was rectified. It was new owners. They had to get educated on what was fair housing and what was not. But I haven't gotten a lot of pushback from the 811 programs. Landlords who are involved with the 2 landlord risk mitigation funds are usually fairly open to it. I've had some where I've had a conversation and the answer is just no at the end of the day, even with all that additional assistance. What we are seeing right now is a lot of landlords, and I can speak on this a little bit later, giving non-renewals to those people who are on disability,
right,
who have that fixed income, and are being displaced and cannot afford what's out there.
Yeah. So kind of dovetails into my next question, which is, how did the pandemic affect the delivery of the services that you provide?
Like everyone else, we had to move a lot of our activities online. So a lot of our workshops were via Zoom. Even the 6-hour-long rental advantage course that we offer, we had that via Zoom. We did meetings and forums online. I believe we even organized a few fair housing events and summits online as well. And even had a speaker series through the county as well. The landlord risk mitigation programs do require inspections to happen, both for the benefit of the tenant and the landlord. We make sure that the landlord is doing all the maintenance they need to do, and we make sure the tenant is taking care of the unit. So we were able to do those online as well, through camera phones, through video.
Interesting.
I said, hey, show me around the house. Just give me a nice, good view of the home so I can take a look at it, point out anything that needs taken care of. If I see anything, I'll point that to the landlord, obviously, because this is a partnership here. So we were really forced to be flexible in the kinds of things that we did, but we were still able to perform those tasks.
Yeah. So what lessons do you think we learned from going through the pandemic, if any? And what initiatives did you all put into place that you believe should be kept? Or what are some of the initiatives that you saw that were being put into place that we should keep moving forward?
So a lot of some of the lessons that we learned, people still need and want to be educated. Through our online workshops, we still had attendance. People still came. Maybe it was easier for them because it was via Zoom. They didn't have to drive somewhere, but they still wanted. We still wanted to know what their rights were, what they should be doing, what was going on. One of the other lessons we learned, I believe, is just being able to pay people's rent. While I'm sure we would all love to, if I had $1 billion, I'd be paying people's rent. That's not necessarily the answer. The emergency rental assistance programs across the state kept thousands of people in their housing, and it was fantastic. And it was an emergency program, so there were always changes, always adapting, always moving, right? But at the same time, we had people who would reach the end of that assistance and come back and kind of say, what now, and expect more. So I think finding a way to get around that and help people, empower them so that they can take care of those issues that they have, because it's always going to come up, was one of the many lessons that we learned. Another one is that landlords were just as susceptible to hardship as tenants. A lot since the pandemic have sold their properties and gotten out of the industry, leading to other landlords who come in, purchase those units, remodel them, raise the rents, and then that puts people who are already living there into even more dire straits. They were fine before the pandemic, before the new landlord moved in, and now they can't afford that rent. Collaboration is key among service providers, among partners. We did have the eviction prevention network set up among Lancaster County service providers. So we already did have that infrastructure in place. But even with that, it was very difficult to adjust to all the changes in programming, how quickly they were changing. We were meeting every week, and things changed every week almost. So having that kind of system in place beforehand not having it in place would have made it much more difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And one of the phenomena that occurred during the pandemic is how rents went up exponentially during the height of the pandemic, and almost from the very beginning. How did Tenfold react to what was going on at that point?
It's hard. I always say when we're doing our workshops, I'm always talking to people about the 4 things that can affect their rental application, right? And the one of them on there is their employment and their income. And I start off with saying that one you can't really negotiate with. So landlords can set their rents as what they want to do, right? One thing we did do is started a housing advocacy program, which would help people find housing, help them advocate for the tenant, talk to landlord. Maybe we can get that rent down, $50, $100, maybe. Early on, when the emergency rental assistance program was in full swing, we could at least say, well, at least have that full year of rent taken care of, and you at least have that security, and they have a year to find, to figure something out and make enough money to make your rent. We were the housing advocacy program helped with security deposit and first month's rent. So those increased rents, they had increased security deposits. So when you needed $2,000 to enter a place before, now you needed $4,000. And so we were able to at least alleviate some of that burden to get people in, because a lot of $4,000 to have just sitting in the bank is quite a lot for a lot of people. So
So now you've also increased your reach. You're in Adams County.
Yes.
How's that going for you?
It's going well. Adams County is a much smaller population than York and Lancaster. We are on the PHRC Advisory Council in Adams County. We've made contact with the magisterial district judges and courts, the 4 of them, I believe, that are in Adams County. So we're moving along great. And our York team is spearheading that operation since they're closer than Lancaster.
Yeah.
And they're doing a great job with expanding outreach in York as well and in Adams County. So
Excellent.
we hope to be even further along at the end of the year.
Excellent.
So, end of next year, yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the landlord mitigation fund for our viewers that may not be familiar with that term.
Sure. So the landlord mitigation funds, risk mitigation funds, are designed to help both the landlord and the tenant. The tenant by having somebody to hold the landlord accountable for maintenance requests, to talk to if something is going wrong and to get advice from. They have that case manager. For the landlord, we perform an initial inspection of the unit, and we perform another one 6 months later, and another one at the end of the year. If the tenant and landlord want to continue in that program, they can. And then we'll do another 6-month inspection and another one at the end of the year. And this just makes sure that the tenant's taking care of their unit, that the landlord is performing maintenance that's needed. We also do check-ins every 3 months. For the one down in York, it's every month. Okay. Just to see what's going on. We encourage landlords and tenants to both, reach out to us if something's going on before those check-ins. They don't have to wait for the check-in to reach out and talk about something. If they're having trouble getting in contact with the landlord, if the landlord's having trouble getting in contact with the tenant, that's what we're there for the duration of that case management. There's also, both programs do have a monetary incentive as well. So at the end of the tenancy, if something has gone wrong, there is some the landlord can make claim on some money past the security deposit if those damages do go beyond the security deposit. So not only do they have that peace of mind of having somebody else in that relationship, but they know that their investment will be protected at that point as well. There's no limit to how long somebody can stay in that program. They can be in as long as the landlord and the tenant are both happy with it. They can stay in there. One cool thing about the program in York, the York Rental Stability Network, is there is a legal referral service attached to that as well. So that is separate from the landlord risk mitigation program.
And how does that work?
Well, right now we have a partnership with the York County MDJ Self-Help Center. Okay. So anybody who comes in to them, has issues with an eviction process or a court hearing, they can get referred to us. We will hear them, talk to them, and then if the time allows, we can refer them to the York Bar Association. And there's 2 separate programs. One is a modest means, where they will have to pay a modest fee. The other one is pro bono. Yeah.
And you mentioned that there was a difference in the check-in time period. Like in York, I believe you said it was once a month, and in Lancaster, you're doing every 3 months. Is funding the reason for the difference, or? Yeah,
funding and the different funding sources and the requirements in the different programs. With the Community Rental Equity Fund, we have a lot more freedom with that funding to decide kind of what we wanted to do. The York Rental Stability Network comes from more of a private funder, and they have more of a slightly tighter list of the activities that we need to do for that.
And so how many families or households do you have enrolled?
The Lancaster program, there are 12 or 13 enrolled. That being said, we've had people exit the program. Most of them have been exiting successfully.
Good to hear. I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Out about the 6 or 7 that have exited, we probably paid out 3 times.
Okay.
Which is great. I mean, they left. There was no issues with the unit. The landlord was happy. They were able to get a good landlord reference because they'd been there for a year. Their credit had improved because they've been paying their bills for a year, and so they were able to go find that new place without needing our assistance or the program's assistance. The York Rental Stability Network is a bit newer, so we have 3 people in that program. And there have been no payouts. So everybody has been chugging along smoothly.
100%
success rate in that one.
Very good. Very good.
I will say one challenge. So in Lancaster, when you get referred by a case manager to the Community Rental Equity Fund, you then get, if you're in the program, you get referred to the housing advocate who can then help you look for housing. In York, we do not have that ability, again, because of funding restrictions. So it is up to the client and their caseworker to kind of do that housing search on their own. We do check in every now and then just to see how things are going. Are they getting close? Do you need us to reach out to a landlord that you spoke to? But they are on their own to find that housing and secure it. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us on PHRC Speaks. I look forward to hearing the progress from Tenfold and your division in particular as you look to affirmatively further fair housing.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great being here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also want to thank you, the viewer, for joining us today. For more information on this topic, or if you believe that you've been a victim of discrimination in a housing transaction, visit us online on www.phrc.pa.gov or call us at 717-787-9780. We're also easy to find online on Facebook, PA Human Relations, and Twitter at PA_HumRelCom. That's going to do it for this edition of PHRC Speaks. Until next time, take care, be good, and be fair to each other.
This program has been paid for by the sponsor and does not reflect the views of PCN. To get your program on PCN Fusion and for more information, contact info@pcntv.com.